Good old Skeld and Icy. There's been a lot of talk.
There's a lot of talk going on. We need to figure it out!
About this particular 21 Pilots album, both when it came out and even now, there's still a lot of discourse about it. And I'm just gonna say, when this album came out, okay, I was his #1 defender. I would die on this hill, okay? I was defending this like it was my firstborn child. But for those of you who watch my videos, you probably know that I have some little offhand comments talking badly about Skeld and Icy. I see it much like a sibling relationship, okay? And I say that as an only child. I don't really know how siblings work, but I can talk bad about Skeld and Icy, but if anybody else tries to talk bad about Skeld and Icy, you're gonna have to fight me. So I feel like a lot of my thoughts and true feelings about Skeld and Icy are not well represented on my channel, so I thought I would make a video in the defense of Skeld and Icy. Now, I understand that this album did not resonate with a lot of people, and myself included, but I thought that I should talk about some of the good things about this album, and maybe a little as to why it just didn't hit with me. But even if it's not my favorite album, I can recognize there are some good things about it, so let's get into that. Plus, poor Skeld and Icy, she's been beaten down. I feel like she needs a video where she's getting praise. And one of the most impressive things about Skeld and Icy is its storyline. Now, for those of you not in the loop, every 21 Pilots album has some sort of storyline, and more often than not, they are a continuation of the album previous to it. And Skeld and Icy introduced us to one of the more darker storylines that we've ever seen in 21 Pilots. It's often referred to as the most dark 21 Pilots album, which is funny considering how happy it sounds, but we'll get into that later because that's a whole different thing. Now, here's a really quick rundown of the storyline within Skeld and Icy for those of you who may not be aware. We got this city called Dima, very bad, very boo. It's controlled by 9 bishops, and within this city we have a guy named Clancy. Clancy is very rebellious and continuously tries to escape Dima and inspiring others to do the same. The 9 bishops controlling the city do not want this to happen and therefore imprison Clancy and force him to perform to be like, hey, everything's fine, don't escape, it's totally cool. Skeld and Icy is basically a propaganda album trying to prove that Dima is okay and a totally cool place to live. All the while our main character is forced to perform and forced to act like this is okay when in reality everything is not okay. Which when you really think about it truly describes the sound of the album. Happy sound, terrible, sad lyrics. Which that's a whole thing in itself. When this album first came out, one of the #1 critiques was its lore. A lot of people were saying that if its lore and its storyline makes this album good, it's not fair to the casual fans who have no idea what's going on. And like, I get that to some degree, but are you just not listening to the lyrics? Are we not listening to the lyrics? I mean, Good Day's pretty upfront with the fact that this is a depressing album. I mean, I get it. If you're not in the lore, you're not going to get the entire storyline, but to say that you can't grasp the concept of it being a dark album at all without being into the lore, I just don't think you're paying close enough attention. But anyways, this was one of the most fascinating storylines within a 21 Pilots album that I have ever seen, just because of how dark it was. I mean, there were literally possessed dead bodies on stage and they were decaying right in front of us. That's certainly something. But a lot of people don't talk about the actual world building that goes into Skeld and Icy. There's tons of videos and tons of people saying that it is dark, and I agree with that, but I think something even more impressive is the fact that it gave us a more realistic view of how this world worked. Blurryface introduced us to the character Blurryface. Trench introduced us to the world of Trench. Skeld and Icy really got into how this world worked and how the players all fit together. Now, you could argue Trench somewhat got into this through the Clancy letters, but I feel like the world just got so much bigger with Skeld and Icy. We realized just how dark Dima was, how evil they truly are, what they're doing to these poor people. We also saw Voltsoy and the Neds, which I love the Neds. After Skeld and Icy, the whole world of Trench just felt more real. It felt more fleshed out, and I can appreciate that from that perspective. If we're talking from a truly lore perspective without the music involved, I would say Skeld and Icy is one of my favorite albums, at least for the storyline. Music-wise, that's Vessel, baby. I'm a Vessel stan till I die. Although I thought Clancy was going to give it a run for its money. Not even gonna lie, I thought Vessel had some competition. The writing process of Skilled and Icy is also something that I can respect. Skilled and Icy was written during a time of uncertainty. It was written during COVID. And because of COVID and social distancing, Tyler and Josh basically had to learn how to write music all over again. They had to learn how to work with a distance between them. And while this may be a daunting task for some, I appreciate that 21 Pilots decided to take a risk with it. That risk maybe did not land well with the mass majority of people, but I can appreciate a risk taker and not playing it safe. Now, in the book, The Only Band in the World, there is some chapters that get into the depth of the writing process for Skilled and Icy. Because Tyler was essentially learning to write music all over again, he decided to pay homage to how he originally wrote music. See, originally starting out, Tyler did not know a lot about minor chords. He only wrote songs in major chords. For those of you who are not music theory nerds, the most simplest way I can put this is that major chords are associated with happy sounds. They make us feel good. They're light and fluffy and feel happy. Minor chords are a lot more darker. This is what we associate with a kind of more brooding, sadder sound. So because Tyler only wrote in major chords, he had a song that sounded very, very happy. And of course, the things Tyler wrote about at the age of 17 was not all that happy. So in order to balance out the scales, he figured that he would have a very happy sounding song with really sad lyrics, and thus the iconic sound of 21 Pilots was born. So paying respects to his past self, when he was writing Skilled and Icy, Tyler thought that he should really play up happy sounding music, sad lyrics. Happy music for sad people, if you will. This is Fall Out Boy. This is completely different. Shout out to Fall Out Boy though. I can appreciate on a very basic level what Skilled and Icy is. It represents a very questionable time in 21 Pilots history, in the world's history. It represents a time where people didn't really know what to do with music or how to go about it, even recording it. Live music was a completely different thing, and it was a very scary time. I can appreciate that Skilled and Icy was a risk taker, and 21 Pilots have always been risk takers. They have never been known to do the same thing for too long, always jumping genres, experimenting, and I appreciate that. But I think it was because Skilled and Icy was so different to their previous stuff. A lot of their fans were used to a kind of certain sound. Maybe some people who aren't, very happy with pop polished music. That when Skilled and Icy came out, it felt totally out of left field. It was like, what's going on? What's going on? And while that did not resonate with me personally, again, I can appreciate that they tried. As someone who is not, the number one Skilled and Icy fan, I can also appreciate that this did not deter Tyler and Josh. I'm so glad that while this was not well received by the general public, I'm glad to see that they're still experimenting and still trying with something like Clancy. It seemed like Skilled and Icy was almost haunting Clancy with the kind of wishing that I never wrote Saturday lyric and this whole idea of overcompensating. It's obvious that 21 Pilots is kind of haunted by Skilled and Icy, but I still appreciate that they did not play it safe with Clancy. There's a lot of experimental things with Clancy that I feel like were much better than Skilled and Icy. Like, Clancy is the idea of Skilled and Icy, but done in a way that I like better. That's just a personal thing. I can also appreciate what Skilled and Icy did for the clique, the fan base. When Skilled and Icy first came out, I saw a lot of people saying that this was their favorite album, and this is the album that got them into 21 Pilots because it was so different than their previous stuff. And hey, listen, I think that's great. If you like Skilled and Icy, that's awesome. I see the clique tried to overcompensate with how Tyler reacted to the feedback of Skilled and Icy, and I see all these posts like, if you hate Skilled and Icy, then you suck and Tyler hates you. Maybe not that extreme, but a lot of cliquies do not like people who are vocal about not liking Skilled and Icy now because of Tyler's feelings towards all of that. To that I say, because an artist is disappointed in how fans reacted to an album doesn't necessarily mean that those fans have to pretend that they like it. I mean, even when all that came out, still not a huge Skilled and Icy fan. I mean, listen, 21 Pilots is my favorite band, okay? Being the least favorite album of your favorite band is still pretty high among other albums. I don't hate Skilled and Icy. Let me be clear on that. She just did not resonate with me the way I wanted her to. But she did grow on me. And I think it's totally okay for people to not like Skilled and Icy, as long as they're just respectful about it. Differences of opinion, those exist. Crazy, I know. But yeah, this was me talking good about an album that I don't talk so well about on this channel. I feel like Scaled and Icy needed it, because while I like to joke on her, she does have some good things, and I want to see more people talk about good things. So in the comments, tell me your favorite thing about Scaled and Icy, okay? Do it. Positivity, positivity. Ugh, I feel like it. Ugh, this is the opposite day. I'm being positive. Gross. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you in the next one.